Hi, I'm Tim. This is the fifth in the series of lessons that will help you learn how to play pop piano. In this lesson, you'll be using both your left and right hand to build a new type of chord called a slash chord. Using this technique gives you interesting ways to change the sound of the chords you already know. Slash chords can also add melodic movement to your left hand playing. In previous lessons, you've played root notes as the primary bass note of chords. With slash chords, you don't play the root with your left hand. Here's a C chord with the root C in the left hand. And here's a C/E chord with an E in the left hand. You can also call this chord a C over E or a C with an E in the bass. The note you play in your left hand can be almost any note, but often the bass note of a slash chord is a chord tone. Play a C major chord in your right hand with the root in your left hand. Then move the left hand up to the next chord tone, the major third, E. This chord is a C/E, or a C with an E in the bass. Move your left hand up to play the fifth, G, making C with a G in the bass. On a lead sheet, slash chords are indicated like this: C/E and C/G. For slash chords, the chord is always written first, and the note after the slash is the bass note. The bass notes of slash chords are often used to create a smoother transition between chords. For example, in the chord progression A minor, D minor, G major, C major, the roots in the left hand are A, D, G, C. Played using slash chords, that progression could be A minor with an E in the bass, D minor, G major with a D in the bass, C major. So the new bass line is E, D, D, C. Try this progression using slash chords: G major, D major with an F sharp in the bass, F major, C major with an E in the bass. The bass line moves down by half steps, like this. Play that with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. G major, D major over F sharp, F major, C major over E. Again. When you're playing seventh chords, you can also use the seventh in the bass as a slash chord. You'll often start with the root in the bass, and then play the seventh when moving to the next chord in the progression. For example, G7 to G7 with the seventh, F, in the bass, to a C with an E in the bass. It's common for piano players to leave the seventh out of the right-hand chord when they're playing it in the bass. So a G7 over F slash chord can be played as a G major chord with the right hand, with the seventh played by the left hand. Here's a progression using seventh slash chords. Start with a B flat in first inversion for 2 beats, to a B flat 7 over A flat. Since this chord has the seventh in the bass, you don't need to play it with your right hand. Then a G minor in second inversion for 2 beats, to a G minor 7 over F. Again, since F is the seventh, you don't need to play it with your right hand. Then C major in first inversion with an E in the bass for 4 beats, And finally, E flat major in root position for 4 beats. Play quarter notes with your right hand and half notes with your left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Using chord tones as the bass note of slash chords gives you more options for creating smooth bass lines to go with a chord progression. Another way to use slash chords is to keep the bass note the same while you play a series of different chords above it with your right hand. When you do this, the bass note is often called a pedal tone. Here's a chord progression with a few different chords over a constant C in the bass. Start with a C major chord in your right hand and the root C in your left. Then play a G over C with a G in first inversion in your right hand, keeping the same C in your left hand. Then an F over C with an F in first inversion with your right hand, while still playing the same C with your left hand. Finish with a C in second inversion, with the C root in the bass. When you're playing chords over a pedal tone, you can choose chords that include the bass note as one of the chord tones. For instance, with a C pedal tone, F major, or F minor, works well because the C is the fifth of these chords. A minor also works well because C is the minor third of the chord. But chords that don't have the pedal tone as one of the chord tones can also sound good. In this progression, the first 2 chords have the pedal tone as a chord tone. The second 2 chords don't. Listen to how they sound. In this progression, D is the pedal tone. Start with a D minor chord. To a B flat major over D with B flat major in first inversion with your right hand. Then an F major over D with an F in second inversion. Finish on an A minor 7 over D with an A minor 7 in first inversion. The right hand chords are whole notes, while the D pedal tone is played with this rhythm. Play that progression with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. Pedal tones are often used by songwriters to build tension in a song. Choosing chords that sound good with a pedal tone is a matter of taste, so experiment with your own pedal tone chord progressions to see what kind of sounds you like. In the last section, you heard how pedal tone slash chords can sound good even when the bass note isn't one of the chord tones. Here's another chord progression using some slash chords with non-chord tones in the bass. Here's a few rules to help you find notes that will usually sound good when playing chords with your right hand and bass notes with your left. First, any note of the 5-finger pattern that's associated with the major or minor chord you're playing will usually work well. For example, the 5-finger pattern that we learned in Lesson 1 for a C major chord played in the left hand goes like this. If you play a C major chord in the right hand, you can hear how the notes of the 5-finger pattern make different slash chords that sound good. C major over D, C major over E, C major over F, and C major over G. For a minor chord, the 5-finger pattern has a third that's a half step lower. So for a C minor chord, the notes from the minor 5-finger pattern make slash chords like this: C minor over D, C minor over E flat, C minor over F, and C minor over G. For a major chord, the note a whole step above the 5th, which is called a major 6th, works well. For a C major chord, this note would be an A, making a C over A. You can also try a minor 7th a whole step below the root, a B flat for the C major chord, making a C major over B flat. For a minor chord, try the note a half step above the 5th, which is called the minor 6th. For a C minor chord, this makes a C minor over A flat. And the minor 7th works well to make a C minor over B flat. Here's a chord progression with 4 chords, using moving bass notes to bridge between each chord change. First, play the right-hand chords. Start with a C minor, to a G minor in first inversion, to an F minor in second inversion, then a B flat major in first inversion, to a G major in second inversion, and finish back on C minor. Play that using quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. C minor, G minor, F minor, B flat, G, C minor. For the left-hand part, start with the C minor chord with the root C for 2 beats, down to B flat for 2 beats, down to A flat for 4 beats. For the G minor chord, play G for 2 beats, F for 2 beats, and down to E flat for 4 beats. For the F minor chord, play F, E flat, A flat. For the B flat major chord, play B flat to A flat, and play roots for the G major and C minor. Play the chords and the left-hand bass part with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. These rules will help you find pairings of chords and bass notes that sound good. Experiment to find the sounds and combinations that you like. To make piano parts sound fuller and to give more emphasis to the bass notes, piano players often play octaves with their left hand, like this. Play an octave with your first and fifth fingers. The key to playing octaves is to keep the distance between those two fingers consistent. That way you don't have to pay attention to hitting both notes. Just focus on playing the correct note with your first finger, and the octave below will automatically be under your fifth finger. Play octaves back and forth between a C and a G. Focus on keeping your hand shape consistent. Octave left-hand notes can be especially effective with slash chords because the octaves help to emphasize the movement of the bass notes. Now play the chord progression from the last section using left-hand octaves. I'll play it for you first. Now play it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're playing the piano as a solo instrument, or in a band without a bass player, playing octaves in your left hand can help the bass line stand out and be heard. But if the band has a bass player, left-hand octaves on the piano can interfere with the bass guitar part, making it sound muddy and harder to hear. The song in this lesson has 3 parts: a verse, a chorus, and a bridge. For the entire verse, play a D major chord in first inversion, and change the bass notes in your left hand to create different D major slash chords like this: D major, D over E, D over G, D over F sharp. Play that with me a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4. D, D over E, D over G, D over F sharp. Again. The comping rhythm for these chords sounds like this. Play the verse chord progression using this comping rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. To give it a fuller sound, try doubling the bass notes with octaves in your left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll play the chorus for you, then show you how to play it. The right-hand chords start just like the verse with a D major in first inversion. Then a B minor in second inversion for a measure. Remember that the fifth of the B minor chord is an F sharp. To a G major in root position, and finish on an A major in second inversion. Play those chords using the same comping rhythm as the verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. D major, B minor, G major, A major. Start with these notes for the bass line in your left hand. D for a measure, up to B for 2 measures, down to C sharp for a measure. Play just the left hand part with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Play those bass notes along with the right hand chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can make the bass line sound smoother by adding some additional notes. Between the D and the B, play an A, like this. And between the B and the C sharp, play a D, like this. This bass part, along with the chords, creates this progression. D major, D over A, B minor, G over B, G over D, and finishing on A over C sharp. Play the whole chorus with me a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4. The bridge of the song uses a common songwriting technique, moving to the parallel minor. The verse and chorus are centered around D major. The bridge is centered around the parallel minor, D minor. Here's what it sounds like. Let's start with the right-hand chords. The inversions of these chords are not focused on keeping your hand in the same place. Instead, they're laid out so that they start high and get continuously lower. First is a D minor in second inversion in the octave above middle C. Then A major in root position, to a D minor in first inversion, a G major in root position, a B flat major in second inversion, an F major in root position, to F minor in root position, and finishing on a G major in second inversion. Play that with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. D minor, A major, D minor, G major, B flat major, F major, F minor, G major. The notes in the left hand are D, C sharp, C, B, B flat, A flat, and G. These bass notes also have a continuous downward motion, just like the chords in the right hand. D minor, A major over C sharp, D minor over C, G major over B, B flat major, F major over A, F minor over A flat, and finishing on G major. Play the chords in the left-hand part using the same rhythm as the verse and the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. The tempo of this song is fairly fast. When you're first learning the chords, you may want to use the speed slider to slow everything down. Start by playing the chords and the left-hand bass notes, and add the comping rhythm when you're comfortable with the song. Have fun.